Hi, welcome to our studio chats. We are so excited to have you here today. Today, we are talking about niching down your design superpower. This is a topic that we talk about often, but it really came to the forefront for us after our most recent interview for our roundtable series with Danika Hendrick from you probably know her, you've probably seen her. She is a very successful surface pattern design who specializes in interior design, so wallpaper and interior designs. And it is a topic that we dive deep into in that roundtable. So if you're not a roundtable member, you can check it out below. We'll put the link here. If you are a roundtable member, make sure you go over and watch that interview. It is incredibly insightful, and we have no doubt you'll walk away with a ton of takeaways. But today we are talking all about niching down. This is a topic, Flora, I know you are very passionate about, so I'm going to let you kick us off.
Yeah, well, talking about Danika, she is a top seller on Superpower, and so we were really privileged to talk to her. And she does this niching down really well. So we're going to talk about how you can niche down some tips and stuff, but then also relate it back to her in our interview as well. So when you're trying to please everyone, you are pleasing no one. So just let that kind of sink in for a little bit. Like when you're trying to please everyone, you are pleasing no one, because you're just like in the sea of busyness, and you're not focused. No one knows what you're doing, and it's about zoning in on on a specific niche, and it's to like kind of like find your voice. It's a game changer, and it will really help you find traction in your career. Ryan and I have both niched down in two areas, and it doesn't mean that we restricted ourselves. It's kind of like, it's not a barrier. It's kind of more like, how would you say it, Ryan? Like finding, say like there's this big playground and like a big kind of adventure playground, and you want to do a little bit of everything, but you're just finding one part that really excites you, and you're going to go and play on that for a while. Kind of thing, like not.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I think you can also look at it as like, what's your bread and butter? Like, what would you want to be designing for forever? There's so much as creatives that we're interested in. We can do wrapping paper, children's clothes, wallpaper, stationery, greeting cards, all of these things. But if you had to pick one that is lighting you up and you feel, oh, I could design it, it speaks to me. That's what the designs I'm excited about, the products I'm excited about, that's your bread and butter. And it's not to say, just like Fleur said, that you can't go and explore the slide over here or the monkey bars over here, but it's really having a focus of, I'm going to become an expert. I'm going to study what's successful in these designs. I'm going to study how designs are laid out here, what colors they are using, what products, how it lays on the product, all of that, the scales, all the things of being able to become really knowledgeable. Because when we're trying to become an expert in everything, it's really, really hard. Where instead we can focus in, find the thing that we're really passionate about. It gives us a clearer pathway to finding success and a clearer direction of knowing, really intimately knowing who our customer is and what the end product is that we're designing for.
Yeah, and it can also eliminate that overwhelm of that feeling of like trying to do all the things. So we're not trying to say like, let's limit our creativity. We're trying to kind of more like these boundaries are not limiting our creativity, but they're rather to help us reduce that sense of overwhelm and pave the way to to define us in a really crowded space. So let's dive in. And Danika does this really well. She shares so much insight of how she has done this. And if you're wanting to get into home decor or anything, or even if you're not home decor and you don't want to do that, interior design and that kind of thing, I think this interview that we did with her is just so valuable, because she just gives so many ways of how she's really taken her design business from here and elevated it way up here. Like some of the things she does, I was just like, oh my God, you've really taken your design business to the next level and really honed in to her niche.
Yeah. So let's dive into some actionable steps, because I think this can feel like everybody tells you find your niche, but it's like, how do I actually do that? And I think one of the first tips, if you've been around for a while, Flora and I talk about this all the time, but being a really great visual note taker and diving into market research is so important of actually getting out into the world, paying attention to what is happening and figuring out that market is important. It's where your passion meets the market too, like
Yeah.
where you're, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's this middle bit of like dive into, like what excites you and what's happening in like what kind of like where you could in the market, diving into what excites you and then what is really maybe like there's a hole in the market somewhere, or where you feel like you're excited about it and you feel like the market needs what you would want to do. And there's this like kind of little middle ground. Okay, what about
Yeah, I
crafting
think
style?
wait, I want to just touch on that really quick. I'm going to give a real life example for me. When I started as a baby products. I had my own finished product, but I was designing for baby because my kids were babies and I was fully immersed in that. And I was I knew what was going on in the market because I was buying all the crap that I needed for it. And I also could see a clear hole I did a lot of like geometrics, a lot of stuff that wasn't cutesy when I was doing that. And it was a clear hole that was happening in the market because it was at the time where a lot of things were just drafts. And, you can, I'm sure, picture of how it was 10 years ago when I was buying baby stuff. And so for me, that was a direct, like I could see a hole. I couldn't find the stuff I wanted for my kids. And I was fully immersed in that. I loved buying kid stuff at that moment. And so start where you're at today. You don't need to worry about, is this the niche I'm going to want to be in 20 years? Maybe I'll evolve, maybe I'll change, but start where you're passionate about today would be my advice.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different story with that. Mine is that I fell into children's wear design. When I came out of university, I got a design job and it was designing children's clothes. I used to want to be a children's book illustrator, but I loved fashion. I had done a fashion degree, a fashion certificate, and a fine arts degree in printmaking. And when I got this job, I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like the perfect mix of like being a children's illustrator and my love for fashion. And it was like infused. And so then I worked and designed children's wear for about 8 years. And then I did like some textile stuff and along the way. Anyway, when I decided to start my own business, that's when I was most happiest in my career. Like I've had this 20-year plus kind of long, amazing career. And when I was most happiest of designing was when I was designing children's wear and I knew it really well. Like I was kind of like a little bit of an expert in my field in it. And so I was happy. I was happiest in my career when I was doing that. So that's why I was like, oh, I'm just going to go with this thing that makes me really happy and let's build on that. And that's why Upton Studio came about.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to tip number 2 for discovering your niche. And it really is crafting your style. Fleur, do you want to talk to this?
Yeah. So, what makes you stand out? I don't want you to think like this is a never-ending thing. I say this all the time that this is a thing that is going to evolve. But what could make you stand out in a niche, and developing a style or a theme that makes you recognizable in your chosen niche. This is uniqueness. Isn't it funny? I don't know how to turn those off. This is unique in your brand and setting you apart from the crowd. Okay, so but I do want to say that this is an ever evolving thing that is going to go over time. You're going to evolve and you can morph into new things, but it is really good to start feeling like finding a style that is going to, that is you, uniquely you, not somebody else. Nobody needs another Charlie Rowan Designs. No one needs another Houghton Studio. No one needs another, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's finding your voice in a crowded market.
Yeah, I want to touch on that really quick because I think that can feel really intimidating. I know, and when I was starting out, that felt intimidating to me to be like, I don't even know what my style is. And to Floor's point, it is ever evolving. I don't think I'm not a believer in a signature style. I am a believer that you naturally have a way that you like to create and that you design things and that you can stretch yourself. And when you're stretching, you'll probably be in a spot where you don't like everything or things don't feel as much like you, but you just have to kind of push through it. And so my tip is if you are in this spot where you're like, I don't know what my style is. I draw something one day, it looks like this. I draw something another day and it looks like this. I just want to normalize that and say, keep going. The best way to finding your style is an art practice, having a daily art practice. Again, visual note taking. What is it that you like about designs that other artists are doing in your niche? So that doesn't mean copying them, but being, is it layers? Is it movement? Is it complexity? Is it simplicity? Is it the motifs they're using? Is it the structure of the pattern? That sort of stuff. Start paying attention to that and then put that away and really spend time in your sketchbook or with your paints or with in Procreate or whatever tool you're using. And through the doing, you will inevitably get to your style.
Yeah, well said. Okay, what about finding your focus? Choosing a niche that doesn't mean confining yourself to a tiny space. This is about finding your favorite section in the playground to play in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, you always give, I think you always give such a fantastic example of this when we talk about being a children's designer or designing with children in mind does not just mean children's clothing. It can mean children's lunch boxes. It can mean children's interiors. It can mean children's greeting cards. It can mean all sorts of things. But I think sometimes we say, oh, it's just children's wear and I'm just in this box and it feels so restrictive. But really, as you become an expert, if you start in children's wear, you now know what sells as children's designs. It's not that big of a leap to say, okay, what's going to sell in children's nurseries? And then from there, what's going to sell as a children's greeting card or a children's wrapping paper? You build on top of it. And I think that feels really freeing, where you can become an expert, but not be stuck in a box.
Yeah, I feel like we don't want to do all the things at once. So like if you love wallpaper, then stay there for a while, like nurture that, like explore that, learn the qualities, order samples, put, wallpaper room in your own home. Watch what other people are doing in the wallpaper space, follow interior design. Like there's just so much stuff. Danika does this super well. She used to be actually an interior designer, and she said her, like, one of her big tips and that she does is she decorates her own home. Do you know what I mean? So she just becomes an expert because she's just like she's using her patterns and stuff. She's designing things that she wants in her own home. And so she's putting things on pillowcases. She's like redoing walls in her office. She's like, I'm going to like redo this. Now I'm going to paint that wall blue and I'm going to put a new wallpaper over here. She's experimenting, she's playing, she's having fun, and she's learning by doing that with her own patterns. And so just have fun with it. And we
Yeah.
need to like shift our focus and our mindset about this, because sometimes we feel like, oh, what if I niche down and then I miss out on an opportunity over here? It's not about that. It's actually really choosing a niche so it's not limiting yourself. It's rather selecting a specific area to excel in. Okay, so let's just shift our focus. We want to excel in something, and so we're shifting our mindset of like, instead of being scarcity of like, what do I narrow down on, and that I might miss out on some other opportunity. You're not. You're going to narrow down, limit yourself to excel in this.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think I'm just going to give the example too. Like if you pick wallpaper, just like Danika said, it's like you will eventually, as you become an expert in wallpaper, then want the armchair cushion, like the armchair upholstery to match. What would you design to match that wallpaper? What would the lampshade look like? What would the tea towel in the kitchen across the room look like that's matching that? And you really can grow with still being an expert in interiors.
Yeah, it's layering in the things, but we don't want to do it all at once. We want to like hone in and then focus on that and then layer in the other things. We don't have to do everything at once, right? Okay, let's jump to the next thing. Stand out, draw in. Do you want to chat about this one?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, we hear this a lot, is the market feels saturated, especially if you're going somewhere like Spoonflower. I think that's a lot of things that's we hear from surface pattern designers, and I know we have felt ourselves, and that really is when the power of niching down comes to play, is it allows you to really have a focus in those crowded marketplaces where if you become like Danika with wallpaper and you can really hone that and you know what that looks like, the way that you are presenting your designs to interior designers is different than the way she's presenting collections is different than the way Flora and I are presenting collections. The way she's doing things is for that end user, and it allows her to stand out because it's a curated experience for somebody looking for wallpaper and interior design surface pattern designs. And I think that's just like a tiny example of how niching down really does allow you to stand out because you can speak clearer to your target audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that was my dad ringing me. I told him, you have to ring me every day because my mum's like, make sure he's not like on the farm, like lying in a. Okay. Life happens, right? Okay. So
Yeah.
we're just juggling all the things. Anyway, niching down is
When
just,
passion meets demand is
yeah,
really the sweet spot. Do you want to speak to that?
yeah, passion meets demand. So if you think of like your like passion over here of all the things that you want to do, and then the demand of something like out in the world of like what people are telling you they need, or what you think they need, what's on trend, all of that stuff's over here, and this is what you want to do over here. There's this kind of overlap of the things that you love to design and the things that are really neat. And if you can find the sweet spot in the middle of designing where you're really happy and following that passion, you are going to find the best mix of like nurturing what everybody else is wanting, trends and what they're needing, commercial stuff, things that sell well, things they need to like repeat, do the same but different. If you can find some kind of sweet spot where you're happy and it's your voice and stuff, and it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, then you are going to be really, really happy in your career. And this career is like finding that sweet spot. And that just takes time. This is not an overnight success thing. It takes time and consistency to like, we work at this all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to normalize that while we always focus on that sweet spot of growing that sweet spot, you will inevitably have projects that land on both sides of that. The things that you do that also pay that aren't necessarily your favorite. Flora and I talk about these. These are the things we drag our feet on and we procrastinate on. But you will do those. And then there will be the things that you do because you love to do them and they may never make you a cent, but they feed your soul. But there's really the focus. If you can grow that sweet spot, it's exactly what Flora would said.
I want to give a good example of this. Ryan and I just did a 100-day challenge. It was long and like it was a love-hate relationship. But one thing that came really good out of that is I was enjoying the art making, but probably not so much the sharing it on social media. And so I was really enjoying that process of like painting in my journal. And, some of the things that I shared, I really didn't like. One thing that I shared, I said to Ryan, oh, I've done this wrong, and I've done the ink and the pens mixed and everything. Anyway, someone saw it and wanted to license it. And so sometimes we do these things that we really love and we enjoy, and other people see them and they want to be a part of that, and they want a little bit. And it ended up being one of my biggest licenses yet, that like for around the terms and stuff that it is. And so sometimes when we're just doing our joyful stuff that's just, you don't think that you're going to make any money out of it, it's just a little painting in your sketchbook, can turn into bigger things. So make sure you share and
yeah. Well, and I had the same thing with my art journaling. Just sharing that every day ended up being a whole new revenue stream for me, where I have companies that hire me to do art journals for them, and it's just a little passion project that I had done. And I think it's exactly what Flora's saying, like lean into share what you're passionate about, lean into what you're passionate about. You never know who's watching that. And this is an extension for me. It was an extension of the niche. I'm still drawing in my same style. It's not necessarily children's wear, but it was bringing me joy.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've really loved this conversation, don't forget to take a screen grab, but we're going to give you some like little extra notes to round this off. And if you've really loved this conversation, you really want to dive into home decor or even just get some new ideas. Our roundtable new interview with Danika is great. If you're a member, go jump in. You can watch it now. Otherwise, you will pop a link below and you can go check it out and learn more all about what our roundtable is. It's all of the things and talking to experts inside print on demand. We talk to Hawthorne, we talk to people that have worked with at Spoonflower for years and years and years, all the insight, juicy details, and we ask all the hard questions. We really ask a lot of questions that other people haven't asked, and things that we needed to know and that we felt like, oh, maybe if we ask these questions, we won't sound professional, or maybe we'll all those insecurities that we feel like sometimes, that we wanted to ask those questions for you and give you all this information so you just knew what they were looking for, what kind of files they needed, all of those like little things that you feel like you just don't know or like
Yeah.
want to know.
Well, and I feel like I feel like Danika did a fantastic job of being, she presents her work, like Fleur mentioned earlier on, in this really elevated way of being like, you're a top seller. She's making a wonderful income from doing what she's doing, but also just seeing the level of professionalism and the way that she is communicating, working with, presenting, the way that she has found the success that she has was inspiring, insightful, and I think she gave you a roadmap if that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah, and some of her, she just shares so much, right? She shows like her promo box of like what she sends to clients, everything. So many hot tips there. Okay, so let's just give you some things to think about with niching down. What gets you excited? Start there, right? Start there. What gets you excited? What in your house that you would love to see a product on? Like if you would get excited about, oh my God, it would be so lovely to have someone make a duvet cover and have my bedding with my designs on. Does that excite you? Do you mean, would it be really nice to have new throw pillows in your lounge or a throw blanket? What do you want to see? Or puzzle. Maybe you love puzzles and you'd love to, like start where it really excites you. That's my little tip. What have you got? An extra note.
Remember that you don't need to do everything at once. Like there is room, pick a spot, give yourself a clear direction where you want to go, a clear audience, a clear person that you're speaking to, and start there, knowing that you can always layer in and expand upon, but give yourself somewhere to start that cancels out some of that noise and gives you direction.
Yeah.
Okay, just before we go, I also want to let you know that Fleur and I have been working so hard on a free downloadable PDF that goes through all of everything we just talked about with niching down, plus 8 other secrets that we think are key in finding success as a surface pattern designer. It is no fluff. This is such a good, meaty download for you. We're going to put the link below so that you can access it. We would love for you to give it a read and then come back and tell us what you think.
Yeah, there's lots of goodies in there. We we put maybe too much information, but like just a lot of ourselves in there. So go check it out. Anyway, enjoy and let us know.
We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, let us know if you've enjoyed this conversation too.